Kathy, the last time we talked, the Historic Preservation Commission was still relatively a new body.
Yes.
It's been a while, it's been several years. Tell us, if you would, remind our viewers, we have a lot of new people in our community, why the HPC was created, and then kind of bring us up to date on how you've evolved in the last, I guess, 7 years.
Well, I think it really started with people who said, we're interested in what is here in Gainesville. You cannot drive down Green Street without being taken by the homes there. And those had been placed on the National Register, but the National Register just identifies properties as being historic. It doesn't protect them in any way. And we wanted to bring in that protective phase so that we can keep those resources and have them for years to come. We've developed the guidelines for the Green Street District and the Ridgewood District so that we have consistency in what we discuss with people about what changes they want to make to their properties. We don't limit property changes, we just guide those changes. And we've come a long way. When we first started, I think like with any new organization or group, you're a little bit sort of tight and, you know, what do we do and what do we do? But we've learned as a commission to really work with the people, to help them and guide them in planning in what they want to do. I know that you've talked to some people that have been through that experience. And our goal really is to preserve these homes that are in this area, and not only homes, but churches, businesses, that have significance to this community, that say something about who we are.
For as long as I've known you, you've been a historian of Gainesville and certainly a storyteller we're all familiar with. Tell me how you've used your passion to make the commission, the Historic Preservation Commission, even better than it has been.
Well, I think it starts with the fact, when I first started being interested in historic preservation was as a child being around relatives in the Madison area and seeing those beautiful homes. And I learned from my family to really appreciate the old, the historic integrity. I don't think you know how to go where you're going if you don't know where you've been. And the homes, the businesses, the churches in this area say who we are. They are what attract people to this area now. We have a great number of retirees coming into the area, and one of the first things they talk about are the beautiful things, the beautiful homes, the beautiful areas that are our neighborhood communities within the town that really speak of another time and another place. And so I bring my interest in the history of the people and these homes and who built them and why, and what sort of things did they add to their house to make theirs a little bit different from someone else's. I bring that interest and that enthusiasm to my work. And then the training that I have had, because we go to training meetings, state meetings, on a regular basis, have helped me understand more about periods, about architecture types, about terminology I'd never known before. And all of those things, I think, combined help me maybe give a better voice to what the historic preservation movement is all about.
I think it's great for you to point out, and Jessica, you can add to this if you'd like, that these people are appointed certainly by the City Council, but we don't just leave them hanging out there and ask them to make these important decisions. We do offer some training.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We try to send one or two, again, given budget constraints, try to send one or two to the annual training that is sponsored by the Historic Preservation Division in conjunction with the Georgia Alliance for Preservation Commissions. They're offered various classes ranging from preservation law to best practices, how to make defensible decisions, and that's really what it boils down to. These guys learn that it's really an approval process. It's all about educating and guiding, not saying, no, you can't do this or you have to do this.
Kathy, you mentioned Madison, Georgia. Certainly we're familiar with Madison, Georgia and the beauty of the homes there. What about across our state of Georgia and then across the nation? How active are other communities in historic preservation?
Tremendously. There are over 120 communities within the state of Georgia who have a designation of a historic preservation commission. And those commissions have a great deal of influence over how those communities grow. And I think that you find on a national basis, it is even bigger maybe than even in the state of Georgia. For a number of years, the HGTV television station sponsored historic preservation, and they mentioned it quite often. We find that people now especially are looking at, all right, if I can't go out and buy and build a big fancy new house, what can I do to preserve and renew and take care of the home that I have? So it's a big movement not only within the state, but across the country.
It's a huge recycling project.
It is indeed.
The biggest of all, I guess. Jessica, certainly we've seen the oval signs on Green Street and Ridgewood, the local historic designation signs. It's easy to drive down Green Street and to see the older homes and know those are historic. But what makes an area like Ridgewood Avenue historic?
Well, although Ridgewood is not as stately as Green Street, it certainly is very historically significant. Alone, its age. Many of those homes were built between the 1920s and the 1940s, and each of those periods of time had different circumstances, economic conditions, and ways of life, and of course architectural trends. So the fact that these homes are quite dated and quite aged, they also add a lot in telling the story of the architectural trends, popular architectural trends of the time, but also are representative of certain people that really helped grow Gainesville and meant a lot to its development.
Now, what happened? It's been a few years since I did the designation there at Ridgewood. What happens to a neighborhood once it becomes a local historic district?
Well, I think Kathy mentioned the National Register simply recognizes the value and historical integrity of an area and says it should be preserved. The local designation is where the rubber meets the road. It says you cannot go around making significant exterior changes without going through an element of design review. And the purpose of that is to protect your investment. It's also intended to protect the overall character of an area. And it helps protect against uncharacteristic new construction and any unnecessary demolition. So what happens once you become locally designated is that when you want to make an exterior change, material change, then you want to go through some sort of design review. And unlike a lot of communities in Georgia, the city of Gainesville is quite property owner friendly in that we have a minor review process, and that allows the planning director to review different projects that have been determined to be minor in nature, and he can approve that. So that saves him time from going through the public hearing process for major changes.
You talk about the design review process. In just a moment, we're going to talk to two homeowners on Ridgewood who went through that. Behind me, a picture of a home on Ridgewood Avenue. This belongs to Kevin Meyer. We're going to talk to Kevin in just a moment. Then we'll tell everyone about the house that's behind the two of you ladies. That's actually on Green Street. But let's take just a moment now and hear from two of our homeowners who were very pleased about the process that they went through with the HPC.
Well, my experience with HPC was overall very positive. I had lived in another historic neighborhood in another county in previous years, and I was a little bit nervous going into it because I'd heard some, pretty scary stories about how demanding some of the other HPCs could be, but I was very pleased with our results with HPC. They were very structured. The communication process was extremely well done, and everything is laid out very well for the homeowner and the investor to work with them. So there is a process involved, so come with a lot of patience, but we both had the same goals in mind, my husband and I, and the organization, because we wanted the home to bring value to the neighborhood as well as bring value to us in our investment, and also kind of bring back the original look and just kind of show respect to the home as well and what it looked like back in the early 1920s.